This is actually my second time filming this video. I filmed it yesterday and it was perfect. I got back, started editing it, and my microphone was unplugged. So anyway, take two, the OnePlus Buds Pro 2. How good are they? Can they stand up to what audiophiles want? Well, in some ways, absolutely. But first, let's talk about build and comfort. The case is pretty nice. It is lightweight. It has a pretty cool finish with this green. Of course, they're available in black also. I like the reflective lettering, Type-C port for charging, and it's pretty thin. This fits in my pocket easily, not taking up too much different of a footprint than things like my AirPods Pros. The actual IEMs themselves, shiny stem, microphones in matte black visible on several of the sides, a bit of a conic shape to the ear tip, and a pretty shallow nozzle that it connects to. This has your standard touch controls, press and hold for active noise canceling and transparency mode, but above all, they're really, really comfortable. For my ears in particular, at least, these are a lot more comfortable than my AirPods Pros, the Bose Quiet Comfort Earbuds 2, or really anything else I stick in my ears in the wireless sector. Transparency mode is acceptable. It's not life-changing, but it's pretty good. And the noise canceling is actually surprisingly decent. I would put that as on par with your averages. Things like sound cores and whatnot, not quite as good as Bose or the AirPods Pro 2 in terms of noise canceling, but certainly more than good enough for a loud environment, an airplane, or anything like that. Noise canceling is just getting good across the board these days. But what I really care about is sound. And with sound, we'll talk about the app a little bit too, because that's where these run into a bit of a hiccup. As far as tonality is concerned, well, these have a bit more bass, a bit more warmth, and they also have a bit more upper treble. Very reminiscent in sound signature to things like the IE600 from Sennheiser, which is a pretty expensive wired in-ear, one that was very favorably reviewed by a number of people, myself included if you remember. This has a similar sound signature to that, and it also maintains other similar faculties. The imaging is pretty great, the soundstage is fantastic. The treble, while airy, is also sifted. It's gentle in certain parts, it doesn't feel harsh. There are some tracks that can pull more harshness out of it, but for the most part I found the treble to be pretty nice. But just know that it is, at least in the upper treble, a bit more than neutral. I feel, however, like the slight warmth added to the bass, well, that kind of balances things out. Vocals are not quite as intimate as a result, but vocal clarity is excellent. I use these a lot with the LHDC codec on my phone, which, speaking of, OnePlus 11 5G. I'll have a video out on this in the near future. But before that, I'll probably have a video out on the 660S V2. I've also got one in the pipeline on the Odyssey MM500. Yes, there is a lot of audio things coming. Make sure you subscribed, you're not gonna wanna miss those. Above all, the factor that impressed me the most on these was the detail and separation. These are surprisingly detailed, more so even than somehow my AirPods Pro 2. And the separation comes with that. It was extremely easy to discern and separate any given instrument, even in some pretty busy recordings, things that are orchestral in nature. Or recently I watched the movie Whiplash. The soundtrack to that is fantastic, and the track Caravan is great for testing out dynamics. There's so many drums in there. There's also a mix of other instruments, and this really separated out the drums from the brass super easily. That's impressive for something Bluetooth, because let's be honest, up until recently, Bluetooth has kind of sucked. Now we have things like the AirPods Pro 2 or the Focal Batiste that are starting to make Bluetooth get a lot closer to the quality of wired. They also work with Dolby Atmos and spatial audio on an iPhone or on Tidal, Apple Music, so on, but there's a big catch. Well, two, I guess. Number one, this is a battery-powered Bluetooth device. Wow, I know. Didn't seem obvious from the rest of the video, right? That means that in 2 to 4 years, this is going to be in a landfill. You're not going to be able to replace the batteries. It's just like every other Bluetooth in-ear, it is essentially going to be e-waste once its time runs out. You're not buying something to last a lifetime. But if you're buying anything wireless, you already know that. I would be a hypocrite if I said I didn't use it, because I do and I enjoy it the whole time, but I'm aware that these are not going to last me forever. And when the day comes that these do eventually die and the battery stops working and they go into a landfill, I will still have my wired IEMs that will work as long as I don't crush them. I have another video talking about that, just kind of as a dilemma. I don't know if that's published yet as the time of this video being published, but it's going to be over on the headphone show. Now let's get into problem numero dos, the app. So if you want to use a custom EQ with these that bakes into them, if you want to fiddle with the settings and all that, well, you gotta use the app. But I couldn't do that. At least I opted not to, and the reasoning is because the app wanted constant permissions to scan my local Wi-Fi and Bluetooth networks, as well as location access at all times to my device's location, my cell phone that it's connected to, and the app has a constant internet connection when it's running. Why is this not just an offline app? I don't feel comfortable letting an app that is always online have access to my location, as well as the ability to constantly scan Bluetooth and Wi-Fi networks all around me. That's not necessary. Plenty of other wireless IEMs out there, you connect it to the phone and then you can use the app. They don't need to constantly scan networks. That just feels sketchy, and I'm not interested in doing that. So I will not be reviewing anything in the app because, well, I can't agree to those terms. But luckily, I like these without the app. And if you're looking for a Bluetooth in-ear, they still get my recommendation if you're okay with this stock tuning. But for people like myself that care a bit about privacy, that's something worth considering. Just like it's worth considering getting one of these DMS hoodies to help support the channel. I say this in like every video, but it's got side pockets and it's really comfortable. You can check this guy out at dmstech.store. Okay. Enough of that, let's talk about frequency response. Okay, so I have the frequency response graph pulled up here. This is compensated diffuse field with 14 decibel slope. Now you can also see overlaid in this graph is the red line, the Sennheiser IE600. Some interesting similarities there, isn't it? Now, a few things to note. We do get more elevation in the 6 kilohertz and 5 kilohertz range with these than we do with the IE600, and less in the 10 to 12 kilohertz range. I find 5 or 6 kilohertz to be much more tolerable than 10 to 12 kilohertz. And as you can see here, it is still at roughly the same level as the bass. Now where this gets really interesting is look at 17 kilohertz. It plummets like a stone. And that's interesting. Now, a lot of people can't really hear that high, so I don't think anyone's going to notice it, but myself, well, I can hear that high, and I didn't notice it either. I didn't notice it until looking at this measurement. I don't get this on any other Bluetooth IEM with any other codec when measuring, so I'm not sure why this is specifically. I reached out to OnePlus in an email to ask them, but as of the time of filming right now, they have not given me an answer, so I don't know why this cuts off at 17 kilohertz. Do I think it's a problem? Objectively, yes. Subjectively, I don't think anyone in the world would ever notice unless they're running a frequency sweep above 17 kilohertz. But listening to music, you're not gonna have any idea. I mean, the 10 to 15 kilohertz range is already like really high up there for music. Very little is actually happening in that range for what you're hearing. I'm like a week from 29. I go get my ears checked every year. I can still hear 20 kilohertz. I didn't notice it. So when it boils down to it, this is an interesting device. It has some ups and it has some downs, but I still really like it. This is my current go-to for a Bluetooth in-ear, especially at the price. $180 is pretty great for how these sound in a Bluetooth IEM. But can you live without using the app? And do you care if they're a bit V-shaped? Well, that is up to you. Me? I enjoy them. If I'm doing really hardcore listening and want something a bit more accurate, I'll sit down at my desk and use the MM500. But on the go, it's kind of nice to have a little bit of a V-shaped signature. On airplanes when I'm traveling, it's a bit more fun, a bit more engaging when you're already in loud environments. Noise canceling helps, but that extra bit of punch can be fun. So, guys, that is going to wrap this one up. If you like this video, please leave a like down below. Comment letting me know what you want to see in the future. If you want to get active in the community, you can have the forums or Discord, both linked in the video description. Again, you can check these out at dmstech.store if you want to support the channel. And as always, don't forget to stick around and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Until next one, guys. Peace.